Something weird happened during my last lesson. It's about the past tense, which honestly made me a little nervous. But then it just clicked. Not perfectly, not 10 out of 10, more like a 7 or an 8 out of 10. But it was enough to realize I wasn't guessing. I was recognizing patterns that I didn't even know I had. I just had them absorbed, and that feeling was almost surreal. So the past tense kind of felt a little intimidating. When I first started learning Spanish, the present tense felt like the easiest part in the world. It's that everyone learns it in school, the familiar AR, ER, IR endings that just stick with you. You could be half asleep and you still remember how to conjugate, yo hablo or tú comes. It's like simple stuff like that, straightforward. And it doesn't require much mental bandwidth. But the past tense, that was just a different ball game. Suddenly, it wasn't just about swapping those endings. You had to earn the preterite and the imperfect, those two past tense with different uses, those subtle nuances and exceptions that seem to pop up everywhere. It felt like learning a new language inside the new language. The challenge with the past tense isn't just memorizing endings, it's understanding time differently. You have to just grasp the idea that some actions are seen as completed points in the past, which is the preterite, and others they stretch out over time or describe like ongoing states, things like that, and that's the imperfect. That's like the mental shift, and I wasn't sure I was ready for. What helped me break through wasn't brute force or cramming rules. It was like a shift in perspective. I stopped thinking of past tense as a bunch of confusing rules to memorize and started seeing it as patterns of time. For example, the preterite is like a dot on the timeline and a completed action, and the imperfect is like a line, something ongoing or habitual. It was a simple mental image, but gave me a framework instead of just chaos. The resource I actually used to make the shift was a podcast called Language Transfer, and I think it's on Spotify. It's super easy to find. It's free. And I relied on those same principles where explanations focus on patterns, not just grammar rules, and I layered this understanding inside of my own program, the Language Operating System, which helps me map language learning in ways that just make sense. It makes sense to me. Still, I wasn't perfect. There are regular verbs like fuiste or exceptions to the rules tripped me up, but rather than seeing those as failures, I started treating them as just markers, signals of what to focus on next. That's a good thing. Mistakes can become a guide, just not a barrier. So if you're feeling intimidated by past tense, you're not alone. It's normal. The key is to not get stuck on perfection or rules. Instead, start by recognizing the big patterns of time and accept that accuracy will come with exposure and practice. That mindset shift made all the difference for me. And it can for you too. So what actually made it click, it wasn't just the lesson that made past tense click for me. It was the combination of a few things working together. The lesson was important, of course, but the real magic happened outside of it. In just a quiet stacking of exposure and pattern recognition. First, I was already reading regularly, even when I didn't fully understand everything, and I've been slowly working through a Spanish book, this one right here, just a few pages a day, and it's not fast or glamorous. Sometimes I'm struggling with new words or sentence structure, but over time, patterns start to emerge. I see the same verb forms over and over again, and the repeated rhythms and the structures that my brain just started to recognize subconsciously. So when the past tense lesson came, my brain had a secret advantage: familiarity. It wasn't encountering these forms for the first time. Instead, it was like, oh, I've seen this before. That recognition made all the difference. Second, of course, I had the mental images for the tenses that helped. So, the preterite as a dot in the past, imperfect as a line, these simple visual cues gave me an intuitive feel for how to use them, beyond just memorizing endings. It's a reminder that language isn't just random, it's patterned and understanding. Those patterns are the shortcut to fluency. And third, I just accepted imperfect accuracy. I wasn't aiming for perfect conjugations right away. Instead, I focused on communicating and recognizing when I made mistakes. Those mistakes showed me exactly what I needed to work on next without crushing my confidence. This combo of slow reading, pattern-based thinking, and a forgiving attitude towards mistakes created the perfect environment for me to finally get past and beyond just using theory. It wasn't magic, it was exposure stacking quietly over time. If you want to make past tense click, try layering those three things. Read regularly, even if it's slow and imperfect. Build simple mental models to understand the why behind the forms. And most importantly, accept that mistakes are part of the process. So, the turning point actually came during my last lesson. So I joined the call a little nervous. So I had to skip a week because he didn't show, and I was just unsure what to expect. Usually hearing a full paragraph in the past tense would just make me panic. But this time, something was different. We started with greetings, and the warm-up conversation. Nothing out of the ordinary. And then my coach just dropped a full bomb on me. A paragraph in the past tense. So normally I just freeze, but instead I slowed down and broke the paragraph into chunks. I listened carefully, repeating the segments quietly to myself. For the first time, my mouth and my brain connected. It wasn't just reading or listening passively. I was producing. I could feel the words flowing out, imperfect, meaningfully. That connection between recognition and production was the breakthrough that I had been waiting for. So later during the call, he mentioned an author. And I said, no, I don't know who that is. Then I realized the book that I'd literally been reading was sitting next to me at home. And I just jumped up over there, grabbed the book. We both just laughed. That was the moment that made language feel real. Not, the abstract, but like a bridge to culture and the stories behind the words that we use. So since then, my confidence with past tense has grown, of course. The present tense is automatic. The preterite forms are starting to feel familiar. Imperfect is less mysterious. I've even dipped a little toe into the future and the subjunctive forms, which I know is going to be coming up. And just to get early exposure, I'm not fluent or perfect yet, but I can feel the structure of language forming beneath the surface. And honestly, that's huge. So I'm at a place where past tense isn't a monster anymore. I still stumble, but I recognize the patterns and can produce basic sentences without freezing at all. This feels like a turning point. What helped was stacking exposure over time, not rushing, not trying to memorize everything all in one go. Instead, slowly building familiarity through reading, listening, and light production. So here's the big lesson. Language learning isn't about perfection or crushing it every single day. It's about integration. Making language part of your life in a way that feels natural. I realized this when I compared motivation, discipline, and integration. Motivation is like a spark, gets you started, but it fades fast. Discipline keeps you going a bit longer, but it requires effort. It can burn you out. Integration is just the golden ticket. It's when learning becomes a habit, like brushing your teeth. You don't think about it, you just do it. Some days more, some days less, but consistently. So how do you move from motivation, discipline, to integration? You start with what you already enjoy. For me, of course, MMA, fishing videos, and the shows that I like. Stranger Things, but in Spanish. Snowfall. I didn't have to learn new topics. I just switched the language. The process is simple. Think about what you already love to do, or watch, or read. What you already do in your native language. Translate those search terms into your target language. Then you search for that content on YouTube or other platforms you already use. So you watch and listen for entertainment, not study. Don't pause or translate every word, just enjoy it. This approach removes pressure to learn and replaces it with natural exposure to language patterns that you actually care about. So here's something practical for you to practice for the past tense. Talk about your day, your daily routine. Naturally lives in the past. So it's what you did, where you went, who you talked to. Saying even one sentence about your day using the past tense is a simple way to get endless repetition without forcing it. You're at. So, before today ends, just say one sentence about something you did earlier. Using the past tense, the preterite, the imperfect. Even if it's wrong, that's all. What feels like magic isn't magic at all. It's exposure quietly stacking over time. Patterns building underneath the surface. And suddenly you recognize something that you didn't even know you knew. That's where I'm at right now. And honestly, I love it. So nothing clicked overnight. It just accumulated in the background until it stopped feeling unfamiliar. Connections forming where I wasn't even looking for them. Understanding showing up before I can explain why. And then, one day, you notice you're not following things you used to miss. That's where I'm at now. Some people are waiting for the breakthroughs to feel dramatic. I'm learning to recognize them when they arrive quietly and stay with them. By the way, no pressure, but there's a link underneath this video where you can have a look at my paid programs. When you trust me enough and feel like my free content has changed your life, you can have a look at that.